Oh hey, my solid walnut top from my desk. This video is not about this. It's all about these, or this one. I've done a video before about how I make these maps, but this is different. Throughout the time that I've made well over 50 of these things, I've changed the process. The very first map I ever did only had two colors. Blue in the letters, blue in the town border, and I went natural with the color of the resin for the roads. But everything's different now. The roads are a satin meringue, the border is red, and the letters are still blue. Well, and of course the highway's black. The process is different because the roads are all at one level, so I can inlay that with paint. The highway is just a little bit deeper than that, so I can go ahead and color this with black. And finally, the border is the lowest one, which gives that great detail that goes all the way along here, and I can fill that in with red, and you'll see how I do that later. So let's get building. All right, let's get this stuff down to size. Cut it with the track saw, which everybody needs one, then table saw, and then this is the process that I seal it with the resin. This is pretty key because it allows me to do all the inlay with the paint, and then I'm able to wipe it off and make the detail really, really good. Oh, and you always have to use a torch to get rid of the bubbles and make it flow out. When that's dry, we go ahead and screw it down, and then I put a registration mark in it, so when I take it back off and put it back on, I know how to line it up. And here we are, we're engraving or cutting out with an 1/8 inch end mill the perimeter of all the lake and the island. And this just gives us finer detail along the edge, because when we're going to come back here in a second and we're going to use a 1/4 inch, and that's to hog out the center, which takes a while and you have to use a dust boot because it's really messy. Then we get to mix up some more resin, and we're going to color this blue, and I saved some others so I can do a couple highlight colors. This is the blue. This is going to make up the lake. Just pour it out. And this resin's pretty much easy for you to say, self-leveling. And a torch, which gets rid of the bubbles and helps it flow out a lot better. Mix up a little black so we can give a little bit of an accent color here. Not to forget the custom stirring up tool. It gives it all the creative design. And definitely more torch. I have a lot of these custom tools called my finger, and I use that to clean off all the little splashes. And more torch time, always. And now to the 1/16 inch end mill. Line it up to that registration mark so I know I'm exactly where I need to be, and I cut out all the little roads all throughout Lake Havasu. Not everyone, but the major little roads. And then we put back the 1/8 inch end mill and cut the main roads. On to the satin meringue and my custom finger paint spreader outer. I use a combination of dry rags, light acetone rags, get everything off, and it works out real well. That's the key to sealing it with resin, the cleanup. Okay, 1/4 inch end mill, make the highway. This is the only color inlay I do while it's on the CNC, and I just do it in the areas, left-handed too, the areas where the border's going through, so I make sure I have a clean cut. And this is the border with an 1/8 inch end mill. Time to do some engraving. We do the star where this house belongs. Then you come up and you engrave the name of the town. This project I was using actual plywood instead of an MDF core, which doesn't leave as much fuzz. And finally, we go ahead and cut it out with the 1/4 inch head mill. Smooth out the rough edges from the tooling and then sand the back to get all the fuzz off. Takes a little time. You got to clean this out with the dental tool and some air, but you got to have all that fuzz out of there and all the dust, so you don't get anything on your markers. And I because I suck left-handed, I can spin around and always do everything right-handed. And here we're going to do the highway. Suck up a little red in a syringe. Carefully fill it in all the way around. And because this is at a lower level, we get really nice clean edges that go right down through the middle of the highway. Same finger technique when we fill in the letters with blue paint, rub it in nice and neat, and then multiple different types of rags to clean it up. Takes a little time, you got to be patient, and eventually, clean as a whistle. Okay, all the painting inlay is done and we're ready to put some resin on this. This actually looks good enough. You could probably just spray a satin coat of some kind of finish and it'd look great. But the guy that's bought 50 of these so far likes to have it fully coated with resin. Makes it look like glass. So we come back and we sand it with 220 so we can get a nice bond. Use the orbital nice and flat, and that gets rid of any paint that might be left over or any imperfect non-smooth surfaces. Blow it off with a little air. Wipe it down with a little acetone, make sure it's all dust free, clean, no oils, and get ready to do some resin. Star marks the spot where the house is. Believe me when I say I don't get sponsored by them, but I use TotalBoat on everything that I do. There may be comparable, but I've had great results using TotalBoat. It mixes 1-to-1. It's really workable and very forgiving. Each map takes about 12 ounces for each pour. I use an 1/8 inch grooved spreader and just keep working it around and around until I'm happy. Now this is, I do it by hand. I spread it around on the borders and on the edges, and then I kind of flatten it out here with the flat palm technique you see here, which also gives me a little more resin to use on the sides. And this helps it flatten out and get a little more level, and I just come right back over it with a 1/8 inch groove trowel. And of course, some torch. Next morning, hard as a rock. Now all we have to do is take off this tape, put a coat of finish on the back, a couple hangers, and it's good to go. And then I use a chisel, not a good chisel, to scrape all the edges and get the tape and the drips off the edge. And then of course, gotta sand. Little trick I learned from burning it too much, and then it comes out just about perfect. Hey, that looks like me. Hard to take glamour pictures of this thing when it's so shiny. I hope you liked this video. Give us a thumbs up, a little like, subscribe if you get a chance, and watch those videos. See you real soon.